Okay, hello everyone. This is one of the weekly meeting that we have with one of the specialists in one of the businesses related to real estate business. And today I have Pam from Law Mother. She is an attorney in estate planning. And I invited her especially for you guys that you had questions about planning for your estate, for your real estate. So we're gonna have these specialists on this video to answer your questions. Please, after this video, if you have any other questions, you can email me. I'll provide my email and I'll provide Pam's information also, actually her office. So you can contact her directly or ask me the question. So for the next time, we have your questions answered. So now, before actually starting the actual video, I have to fully disclose that we don't have any financial interest or relationship. This is purely educational, and this is for our clients or potential clients to take benefit and educate them about estate planning on this video and other videos on this series, just educational regarding real estate. Pam, if you don't mind, please go ahead and introduce yourself and your office, and we go from there.
Yeah, so good morning. Thanks so much for having me. So I am Pam Moss. I'm an estate planning attorney here in Colorado, and I help families and business owners protect what matters most. Our website is lawmother.com, and we are happy to be here today to talk to you about this important topic.
Awesome. That's very good. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, especially during this time, and this is very appreciated. Pam, if you don't mind, if you can just briefly explain what is estate planning?
Yeah, so estate planning is really putting a legal plan in place to protect you and your loved ones if you were to ever become incapacitated, and also to protect you and your loved ones when you pass away.
Oh, okay. So why this is important? What's the benefit to the person and the family, or maybe just the family? If you can explain that, that would be great.
Yeah, so estate planning is important because without putting a plan in place, the government has a plan for you, and that is the default plan. And you are not going to like the government's plan for you because it is a court process called probate, which is really time consuming and costly for your loved ones. And kind of to explain this, I had a colleague whose father passed away a few years ago, unexpected. He didn't have a plan in place, and she felt like it was a full-time job trying to manage his estate through the probate process. He didn't have a lot of assets, but it still took her several years to figure out what all of his assets were, where they were, go through the court process. It cost her family a lot of time and money, and it was just a very bad experience. So you've worked so hard to get the real estate, the assets for your family, and really kind of going this extra step to protect it so it doesn't get lost to the government. It doesn't cause your family a lot of headache. And also, if you have minor children, then your minor children, and I saw this a lot when I was a deputy district attorney, without a plan, a lot of times they're going to end up in government care for some period of time. They may end up being cared for by people you would never want to care for your kids. So having a plan in place protects your minor kids. And then when they become adults, it also prevents them from just getting their inheritance outright at age 18 unprotected. Most of us don't make the best decisions at 18. So with a plan, you can really put in the right guidance, support, and asset protection for them as well.
Oh, okay. So you mean if someone pass away and the family, even like other people or family members, they know, for example, this person had these children, or she or he was married with that person, still it doesn't work? Still it goes on probation?
So it really depends on the specific family and how things are titled right now. So for real estate, if you own your real estate titled with your spouse and you don't have a plan in place, but you have it correctly titled, it's going to transfer to the other spouse when you pass away. But when the two of you pass away, so if you both pass away at the same time, it's going to go through probate. And that's going to be a court process that's described as a lawsuit against yourself for the benefit of your creditors. Here in Colorado, on average, it takes between 9 months and 2 years and costs between 5 and 9% of the estate. So for a colleague of mine that I mentioned whose father passed away, he had some real estate, he had some life insurance and retirement accounts. She ended up spending $80,000 going through the probate process for that experience because he didn't have a plan in place. And that was $80,000 out of her inheritance that just went through this, having to pay for lawyers, pay court costs, and then all the costs of the time involved.
Wow, that's very, very expensive.
It's very expensive. And for a lot of family members, real estate can't be sold during the time period. Bank accounts get frozen. Your loved ones don't have access. So it just really, really creates a big headache for everyone that you care about if you don't put something in place ahead of time.
Okay. Pam, what are the most important factors when someone comes to you and say, I want to do estate planning? What are the most important factors?
Yeah, so the most important things are really making sure that it's customized for you and your family. And I would say we probably get at least one phone call a week that someone says, hey, I just need a simple will. I just need a simple will. I'm just calling to do a simple will. And the case that I like to share about kind of the mistakes that can happen, especially when people try to do it themselves online, is there was this woman in Texas. She owned a piece of real estate and she owned a retirement account. And she went online and created a simple will. And the simple will had it that her real estate went to her son and the retirement account went to her daughter. And then she just didn't update her estate plan. And she lived another 30 years. And by the end of the 30 years, the real estate was worth a whole lot more. And her retirement account she had used through all that time period. And so it wasn't worth very much anymore. And she passed away. And that simple will that she created online had her son inheriting her real estate and her daughter inheriting nothing. And so, as you might imagine, that wasn't her intent when she wrote it many years previously. And so her son said, hey, this is what mom wanted. This is what she put down. She wanted me to have the house. And her daughter's like, mom would not have wanted me to receive nothing. So the daughter ended up suing her brother. It became a big court battle. It became very expensive. So I think that's a very common misconception is I don't have enough money. I just need a simple will, or I don't have a large enough estate. So really making sure that you work with a professional that you trust, you get something customized for your family. It really is, you get what you pay for. And so similar to when your clients come to you and work with a professional realtor, there's so much value that your clients get from working with you, because when they try to purchase real estate on their own or sell real estate on their own, they aren't a professional, right? They're going to miss things. They're not going to receive the type of value, the type of money that they could receive. They're not going to get the type of house they necessarily want trying to do it on your own. And estate planning is the same way. It's really the professional advice and getting something customized for your family and having someone walk you through the scenarios to save you the most money down the road, to save your family the most money, and to save them the most time.
You mentioned that very good thing. Actually, I have heard it so many times that people, they say, okay, how about a simple will? I'm going to just download from Google a will, or I go to county or something like that. I get the form and fill it out and I should be okay. And I tell them, no, don't do it. I'm not professional in this field. Go talk to someone who knows what she or he is talking about. And that's very good that you mentioned that exactly, and with the case.
Yeah. And I think the confusion is people don't understand what things a will governs and what things your beneficiary designations and titles might cover. And so that's kind of a big mistake that people make. But then there's just more opportunities to save money on taxes and to save money down the road and to really protect your family and design something customized for them when you work with a professional versus kind of going it alone. A lot of times kind of the do-it-yourself tend to fail and people end up in court and it ends up being very costly.
Okay. I got a question. Actually, I have some clients that the real estate is under the name of one of them, like either under the name of the husband or the wife, and the other person is not on that real estate. And they may or may not have official court document that they are married. If you get such a case, what happens? Can they go just to after one of them, after like the title owner passes away, the real estate goes to the wife or husband, even they don't have the official document or not?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think when I answer that, I'm going to throw in here that this is everything I'm talking today about is not legal advice, it's legal education. And for it to be legal advice, you'd have to kind of call our office and have an attorney-client relationship with us. We'd have to know your personalized situation. So there's a few things that you said in that hypothetical fact pattern that it's going to depend on, and there's more information I would need, but I'll kind of tell you generally, right? There was a few ideas that you talked about. So the first is if you own your real estate solely, it's only in your name, and so you don't have anyone else listed on the title, when you pass away, it's going to go through probate. And the probate court in the place where you own that real estate is going to look at that state's laws and decide what happens. So a lot of my clients own real estate here in Colorado, and then they have an investment property or they inherited property in another state. And it's important to know that that is going to involve two probate processes: probate in the state where the person, where each real estate is. So for example, if I own a piece of real estate in Arizona and Colorado and I die without an estate plan, my loved ones are going to have to go through court processes in both Arizona and Colorado. They're going to have to pay double the legal fees. It's going to be very, very costly and time consuming. So the probate court process is going to be based on the state. So here in Colorado, we have specific laws of if you have no will in place, how your real estate and your other assets would transfer. And typically, in most cases, it's going to go to your spouse, but there are exceptions. So the law talks about how long you're married. If you have, if you're part of a blended family and you have children from another relationship, your spouse might not fully get it. It's going to be based on those two factors. And there's actually a table that talks about the number of years you've been together. And if you have children or parents that survive, what percentage that those people will get. So when you have title joint with right of survivorship, it's going to automatically transfer to the other person. As I mentioned, if it's just in your name, it's going to go through probate, and then it's going to go based on the state's law. And here in Colorado, there's a specific table that's going to look into how long you've been married, and if you die with your parents still living, or if you die with children, and they're over the age of 18, and those types of things. And then when people aren't married, which is the other question that you mentioned, it gets a little muddier, right? So Colorado is a state that allows common law marriages. And arguably, if you were to pass away, so if you're living with another person, you pass away and you are not married to that person can still argue that you were common law married after you pass away. So they could go to court and say, hey, I should inherit this. We were common law married. We lived together. And the common law marriage statute is a multi-factor test, and it will be up to the judge to interpret that. So a lot of times I have clients who do have life partners that they would want to inherit everything, and it's not clear. And so really, it would really depend on what the judge does and how they interpret everything. So if you do want it to be clear, if you do want your spouse, or you want your children, or you want your best friend, if you want someone else to inherit it, then you really need to state that in a specific plan so that the court understands it and can follow it. Now, we've been talking about wills, which come into effect when you die. There's an alternative option, which is holding your assets in what's called a living trust. A living trust avoids the probate process. So when you set up a living trust, you set up how it's going to flow, and it's not going to go through the probate or court process. So that is another alternative tool that can be used. And it's really going to kind of depend on your specific needs and your specific family.
Very good. Thank you so much. That was fully explained. That's awesome. Just to reconfirm again, this is not a legal advice at all. This is purely educational. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question, you need to talk to Pam, to her office directly, and get advice, get legal advice when you have a relationship with her. Pam, regarding the estate planning, the types of estate planning, if you can briefly explain a little bit about the types that are more common.
Yeah, so there are different tools when it comes to estate planning. And part of that, which tool in the tool belt is going to be used, is based on kind of your specific needs. So we talked a little bit about a simple will or will. Wills come into effect when you pass away. Trusts come into effect when you are alive. And there's lots of different types of trusts, and they're used for different reasons. So a living trust is typically the most common, and it's put in place while you're living, and it gives you some disability protection, and it also kind of avoids the probate process. And then I usually talk about, depending on your specific family dynamics, there might be other things. So if you have minor children, there's some tools we use to protect minor children. And so our family and my firm, we use what's called the Kids Protection Plan. So we do wallet ID cards for minor children so that your kids are never in the hands of Child Protective Services. I worked in the government before I started my firm, and I saw that especially younger families didn't have estate plans in place. The unexpected would happen, and then their kids would end up in Child Protective Services until the courts could figure it out, which is very scary for kids. So what we put in place is short-term guardians, long-term guardians. We have a whole comprehensive kids protection plan that also includes caregiver guides and other things like that. For my clients who are business owners, and some of my business owners are real estate investors, so they own multiple pieces of real estate, or they own another business and multiple pieces of real estate. There's other things that we want to put in place to make sure your business or your real estate isn't going to end up in probate, and then it's going to go to who you want in the way that is the most tax advantage for everyone, and that's going to set up your family for success. And then I would say for people who are blended families, so they have children with other partners, there is a really, really, we all remember the Cinderella story, right? Where Cinderella is left with her stepmom and is a slave in her own home for the most part. Those are the types of planning we want to avoid for families. And it's actually very common, even though that's a fictional fairy tale from when we were children. There are plenty of kids who go through that type of thing today when there isn't a plan in place. So we want to make sure that there's not going to be conflict down the road between step parents and that kids are going to be taken care of. And then for my clients who are higher net worth, then we do some advanced planning to really look at how to minimize legally exposure to estate tax and also wealth preservation techniques.
Very good. Thank you so much. Pam, many people, they ask about cost. I know it's case to case, and it depends on how much work the case needed. However, if you can mention a little bit like basic cost, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Cost is an important factor. And I have kind of a free report that I can give you the link to share with your audience and your clients around the mistakes people tend to make when they're shopping around for estate attorneys. So what are the things you should look for? And one of those is what should you look for as far as price? So the cost of doing nothing that we talked about, of having no plan, is typically 5 to 9% of your estate value. And if you look at kind of the average family that has some real estate, that has some insurance, some retirement accounts, for most of my clients, when we do that calculation, the cost of doing nothing is usually a number in the 6 figures. Even for kind of my more average families, that's going to be the cost that's going to come out of their kids' inheritance. So I mentioned the example where my colleague paid 80 grand. Normally, a really comprehensive estate plan that's going to work for your family is usually going to cost between $4,000 and $6,000 on average. And then for advanced planning, when you have higher net worth and you need to add to that and have some more complex trusts to have wealth preservation, to protect your assets, to protect your kids, then the prices are going to be a little bit higher, kind of depending on what you need on top of that. And then we talked about the 5 to 9%. There's also tax savings that you can put in place by having an estate plan. There's the savings of the opportunity cost, right, of your family not having to go to court. And then there's just kind of that peace of mind of knowing that your kids are going to be protected. They're not going to end up in child protective services. Your loved ones aren't going to deal with frozen bank accounts, all of that.
Very good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you have anything else to share it with our potential clients and real clients now, go ahead. If not, we can close the session.
Yeah, so I'll share that link on the free report of mistakes people often make when looking for an attorney and kind of what you should be kind of looking at when you're looking and evaluating attorneys and estate planning services. So I'll share that link that we can give. I also have a book that is going to be published this month called Legally Ever After. So when that comes out, it's going to come out in March. I'll share that link with you so you can share that with your audience. And I'm going to have some discount codes for people, and it goes through how to protect your children's future and happiness. So really excited to be here again today. Thanks for having me. And we are happy to be a resource for your clients. We always offer complimentary 15-minute calls. So feel free to reach out to us. If you're not sure how to get started, maybe you feel a little bit intimidated to speak with a lawyer right off the bat, we do this 15-minute call so that we can, see if it's a good fit for you, see if it's a good fit for us, and answer some of your questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate when you share these links. For sure, I'm going to share it with my audience, with my clients and potential clients. That would be great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any other question, please go ahead and let us know. And if there are enough questions to have another meeting, we will do that in the future also. Thank you so much. And go ahead, please share this video. If this information is really helpful to you, go ahead, share it with your friends, family members, coworkers, colleagues, people in your community. This will help them actually. They may not tell you they have this kind of question or this kind of issues, but when you share with them, they will thank you. Thank you so much, and you have a great time. Until next video, I'll see you on the next video with another topic. Actually, the next video will be with a young entrepreneur, 31 or 32 years old, millionaire, and he has multi properties. And so that's the topic of the next video. Thank you so much again, and see you on the next video.